Today I'm going to be replacing my dated sink faucet with this new sink faucet by Moen. That's up next here on Bud's Odd Jobs. Okay, in a previous video that you can find up here, I replaced a bathroom faucet, and you can see a lot of detail about how to replace a faucet there, but we're going to do a different installation. We're going to do a kitchen faucet today. This faucet is still operational. The reason I'm replacing it is because, as you can see with this clamp on here, this place where it receives the faucet itself cracked, and so therefore I had to put this clamp on, and it's a little unsightly. The first step in a faucet replacement is to remove the old faucet, and to do that there's a couple of things we have to do in preparation. First thing, you need to shut your water off, and if you don't have shutoffs under your sinks, I would highly recommend that you do that. It's a real good way to isolate the repair so that you don't have to shut down all the water in your house when you do a repair. It's also good in an emergency when one of these lines break. You don't want to shut off the water to the entire house until you can get that line fixed. So therefore we're going to shut this off. The other thing you want to do is you want to line the bottom of your cabinet with a towel and perhaps a pan to catch any residual water that might come from those lines when you take them off. So let's go ahead and get to it. To turn off these shutoffs, it just takes a quarter turn and they are off. And so our next step is to detach the two supply lines found here so that we can prepare to remove the old faucet. The tools recommended by the Moen manual include a pair of pliers, a crescent wrench, a screwdriver, and some safety glasses. Additionally, I'm going to recommend that you have a wrench set. It's a little bit easier than my large crescent wrench to get in there and take off those water supply lines. And in the previous video, I also featured this tool, which is a basin wrench. With the way the water supply lines are attached here, I don't believe I'll need to use that. But that is a tool that I would recommend that every homeowner have, particularly for like bathroom sink repairs where it's very difficult to get to those supply lines. This tool works really well, and as I mentioned in the other video, it has a swiveling head that can be used, and this is spring loaded here, and so it easily clamps on and allows you to turn in tight spaces. If you've ever tried to take those out with a conventional wrench, it's near impossible. So I would highly recommend this tool, and I'll leave a link for it in the description below. With my two supply lines detached, the next step is to detach the faucet from up under the sink. To remove the faucet, I first need to detach the supply line, and to do that there is you see these two white prongs, they're a clamp. When I squeeze those together, that clip comes out, and if I can remove it with one hand here, when that's removed, the line will detach. Okay, the last step needed before we can pull that faucet out is to remove this nut here, as you can see, and that'll allow us to remove this retaining bracket that kind of holds everything in place. To remove that nut, basically what I'm going to do is pull the line, the supply line, to the faucet out by pulling it on top, and that'll give me the ability to use the tool provided to get on that nut and turn it down with the screwdriver. Okay, I'm just going to insert this plastic wrench on the nut, and since I need full use of my both hands, I'll use a screwdriver, and there's a hole down here you can see by my thumb. Stick the screwdriver in there, snug it up on the nut, and just use the leverage of the screwdriver to turn that off. And we'll be turning that counterclockwise. Okay, I was able to loosen that with the screwdriver. Now I can just turn it off. Everything is now loose, and I can pull the old faucet up and out. As in the previous video, then you want to wipe clean the surface that's going to receive the new faucet, and this could be done just wiping it with a paper towel and then using maybe some mild cleanser. It's just a matter of sticking the lines back down through, setting your faucet in place, and then a matter of going underneath to re-secure things. You want to make sure that the faucet is in the position that you want before you tighten everything down. So I'm going to want this faucet on this side, and I'm certainly going to want this square with the top. Okay, I put my faucet retaining nut on the bottom, but I just snugged it. The last step is just to check the lines here. Make sure everything's lined up perfectly before you snug everything down and make it good and tight. Okay, now under the bottom, when you're ready to snug things up, then we use our plastic wrench here and seat that on. And then, of course, use this hole in here to put a screwdriver in and use it for leverage to turn that good and snug. And this hose protector just goes on the end of the tube here, just like so. Next, with the faucet secured in place, you want to take the supply hose for the faucet. This is the coupling side with the coupling protector on it. That goes in first, so you feed it down through and out the bottom. And then to this, we're going to attach the spigot. So now we'll go ahead with the spigot and just screw that on in place. Next, we're going to attach the counterbalance to this so that the faucet remains up in place. Okay, when you're attaching your counterbalance, this is metal, but it has pads in here to kind of keep it gripped on the line when you close it and snap it shut. You want to attach this after you pull this taut. You want to attach it as close to the floor of your cabinet as possible so that you have plenty of travel room. So when you pull this out, this will come up and you'll have plenty of room to pull this out full length. Next, you want to remove this protector cap, and then it's just a matter of snapping the coupling in place. Okay, with everything else in place, last thing to do is to reattach the two supply lines. As a tip, when attaching your supply lines, make sure you attach the correct lines to the correct side. You note that on this one supply line, it's labeled hot side. Typically, the cold is your right side and the hot is your left side. I would also recommend that you use a good quality thread tape while putting these back on. That guards against possible leaks as well. With your lines secure, then you can recharge your lines and check for leaks. With all the lines in place, it's time to test your faucet. These buttons alternate between stream and spray. This button is for power boost, gives you a stronger stream. To reset the power boost button, you simply turn it off and this button pops out and resets. The final recommended step is to unscrew the faucet and check the filter in here for any debris that may have been in this line when you connected it. Just clean that out so that therefore you don't get a plugged or a clogged spray. And then you're set to go. And that's it. We'll call this job done. I appreciate you watching today. If you found this content useful, I'd appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up. We'll see you next time.